This is a kickoff meetup for the interoperability contest of InterSystems technology, interoperability contest 2021, because last year we had interoperability contest 2020. Okay, great. And today's agenda is to discuss what do we expect from you in this interoperability contest. And today we have our two product managers of InterSystems, Stefan Wittmann and Bob Kuszewski. And Stefan and Bob will have their words on what they particularly expect from you, from developers, to contribute on this interoperability InterSystems contest 2021. Okay, Stefan, do you want to start?
Sure. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. And of course, InterSystems has more than just two product managers, but we are the two looking after interoperability. So while I'm figuring out which of my many screens to share here, check. This one looks good. Let me know when you can see my presentation here.
Yes, we do.
Yep. Okay, awesome. Not that I'm talking, nobody can see what I'm talking about. So, yeah, my name is Stefan Wittmann. Thank you, Evgeny, for introducing us. This is the second interoperability contest that we're doing, the first one this year. So hopefully you all are already familiar with interoperability and did take a look at it last year or over the year. But if not, don't worry, don't fear. I'm going to give you a very brief overview over our interoperability engine to get you started so that you know what we're talking about and what this contest is about. I'm the product manager at InterSystems for interoperability in general, and I'm joined by my colleague, Bob Kuszewski, who covers interoperability into other ecosystems like Java or .NET, Node, Python, all of these nice things. So without further ado, I would like to provide you with a very brief overview of the basic elements of what we call the interoperability engine. The basic part operates very much just like a message bus that you probably know. An event occurs, a message arrives, in this case on the left side of the diagram that you see here. And what happens first is that a business service, which is the part on the very left side here, creates an internal message out of that event and forwards it to a process, which then runs some kind of business logic. That part can be very simple or involve a multi-step business process, can be very complex depending on your needs and the application that you're trying to build. And whenever the process comes to a point where external interaction is required or data needs to be persisted, in other words, an event needs to be triggered, right? Then you create an internal message and send this to the business operation, which you can find on the right side here. The business operations task is then to interpret that message and run an action that's associated with that message, with that event, like sending an email, retrieving weather information, or storing a record in the database. The concept by itself is very simple at its core. Input on the left, computation and processing in the middle, output on the right. That's basically what you can see here. This is what we in general refer to a production. So when you're searching it for the term production in our documentation, that's exactly what you're going to find. Interoperability production is the term for it. When you click on the little circles that you can see on these individual elements, you will always see a graph rendered to which individual services, operations, or processes messages are being sent from or received from. So that's useful. The processes part in the middle can obviously be a bit more complex, and there are a couple of tools at your disposal to build logic, to build business logic for your application. One relevant piece here is the business process, or very, very short, if you just want to say BPL, right? The business process language. The BPL editor is what you can see here on the very left side. It's a graphical tool which lets you design a business process by itself, which is a high-level process that you can design with an entry point, with a stop point, and you can have conditional logic in between. You can run specific actions and events in here, like assigning a variable at a very low level if you want to, but it can also be more high level, like sending a message to a business operation, which then sends an email to somebody or starts a human interaction through the workflow engine, right? Can also be very high level. It includes conditional logic for if conditionals, for while loops, for switch statements, these kinds of things. Everything that you run here and that you invoke can be invoked in a synchronous way so that you're waiting for the response. Can also be invoked in a synchronous way so that you can invoke multiple operations at the same time, if you will, and then sync later on when you have the responses ready from all of them, or maybe some of them, right? So that can be very helpful. In general, the idea is that you describe a process at a high level, which then gets compiled into code that actually executes what you designed here. And the beauty of this is that it allows you to design something that's flexible in the logic, right? The flexibility comes in through elements like business rules, which allows you to define rules that then basically just go through the rule set and try to figure out based on the message or the input that you provide, what the potential output is. And other parties, other users of the systems can tweak the rules, right? And that makes your code very configurable and flexible in general, so that nobody really has to tweak your code that you wrote or the process that you defined, but they can tweak it and customize it from external tools like the business rule editor. Another tool like this would be lookup tables, which is just a table with key value pairs, if you will, and allows customers and parties to, let's say, map values, which can be very helpful. Another tool which is at your disposal is the business rule engine. I just mentioned this earlier. Business rules is basically just a set of rules that you define, very often based on input parameters from a message that you parse through, and then you can route that message based on the content of the message or the metadata of that message. And this allows you to build more modular productions. You can say, hey, if a message got into my system, let's say because I received an email, then I want to invoke my business process which deals with emails. But if an email was sent from a very specific domain, which is my test net, then I want to run a very specific business process which has a special logic for my test net, which is not yet released, let's say, right? So the rules engine allows you to route your messages based on the content or the metadata, and that's very helpful to split up logic and not have very large processes which try to deal with everything, but have modular processes, which is very powerful. Also, another option that you can use and directly invoke from within your business rules is the data transformation engine, which allows you to take a message from the left side here from one format and convert it into another message structure, which can be any kind of class that you design, or it can be any of the virtual document types that InterSystems IRIS supports. So that could be Edifact, it could be X12, or if you're in the healthcare sphere, it could also be HL7 or something else, right? It's a very powerful tool, allows you to map your messages either in a graphical visual way like you see on the screenshot here, or underneath by writing code. Going one level further, and that's quite important, I believe, to understand, is every time a message is being sent between an actor in your production, like from a business service to a business process, or from a business process to a business operation. And a message actually is stored in the database and is tied to that session of these events, right? And you're seeing a screenshot here of the message trace, which basically shows you a visual representation of all the messages that were interchanged between these individual actors. And it, on one side, gives you as a developer a very powerful tool to debug what's happening inside your production. It allows you to understand what has happened or what hasn't happened yet. But it also, and that's the second dimension to this, which is very often overseen, everything here, every record is being stored in tables that you can query. And that allows you to understand the performance of your system. It allows you to understand where bottlenecks are. It allows you to understand what you can do to optimize your system. So if you don't want to build an application or you don't have a specific application in mind, another option, another path that you can take is you can use that data here to build an application that helps interoperability developers to build their application or to understand what's going on. That's another dimension that you can focus on. A couple of ideas for potential projects in case you don't have something on your mind already. Something that we are interested in as InterSystems as a company is always the field of IoT. So the Internet of Things. If you want to interoperate with different types of sensors, if you want to build an Arduino and get that connected and hooked up with the Interoperability Engine, that's always a fun project to do, and it gives you a great sense of traceability of what's happening inside your engine, inside your device, because you can track exactly what kind of data is being sent from the device to your system. It's always interesting to interoperate with other services. You can use multiple tools for that. You can just use REST services or web services for that. You can also use PAX, which is our current tool set for interoperate with languages like Java or .NET. Bob is going to talk about that in a second. So look forward to that. And you can always, of course, that can be part of your application. You can try to orchestrate complex processes. In terms of areas of interest that I'm interested in, is not just, don't just take a service and try to integrate this with a production and be done with it. I think the real value comes as soon as you start to weave multiple services together and compound them. So don't just use a weather tracker or just a localization service or an image tracker, these kinds of things, but try to use multiple services and bring them together through business logic that you build in a business process, for example. Try to make your application in general more configurable. Try to think about users that want to tweak your application, potentially through business rules or through lookup tables. Try to do these kinds of tweaks. Extending the ecosystems is always of interest to us to see what you want to do in terms of reaching out to libraries that are available in other ecosystems. That's always an interesting project. And like I mentioned, building an application that helps developers understand what's going on inside of the Interoperability Engine can also be an interesting angle. That's my very brief overview of what the Interoperability Engine is and what you can take a look at in terms of the next 2 weeks for this contest. So I'm wishing you good luck and fun, but obviously this is not over yet. We're taking any questions that you have at the end, but before we do that, let me hand over to Bob so that he can cover PAX and a couple of other things too.
Yeah, thanks, Stefan. Mine will be much briefer than Stefan's presentation. Cool. So for those of you who are interested in extending the suite of connectors that we have available for interoperability, say you needed to connect to, I don't know, some sensor or third-party system that we don't have a connector built in already, one of the options that's available to you is productions extensions, so what we affectionately inside InterSystems call PECs. And it allows you to easily create an adapter for really anything you would like in Java or .NET. So it uses our Java gateway or a .NET gateway, and it gives you a clean way of connecting like a business operation or a business service, for example, up to some other library like, I've used Kafka as an example. Last year, we were actually in the final stages of getting our official Kafka connectors released, so expect those in the next 6 months. But there's many, many other libraries. There's Apache Camel, which connects to everything. There's all sorts of things that you could connect to using PECs. So I just wanted to give you a brief overview of what it is, and just point you at a couple of resources that you have that you can look at. Because as developers who have not used interoperability before, one of the places where they sometimes hit a roadblock is they say, oh, but you don't have a connector for X. X makes it really easy for you to create that connector that you might need. So we have online learning, which I'm showing here. So they have a class that you can take. It's very quick, but it gives you a good overview of it. We have examples. So here's one that's on the developer community. There are a couple of these that are on developer community that are all open source that'll walk you through, hey, here's how I used PECs to build an adapter. It also walks you through exactly how PECs works, right? That the iris process starts up the Java gateway, which then loads your code, and then they communicate back and forth. Here is the documentation on PECs, and it shows, all of the things that you can use PECs for. It doesn't have to be just adapters, but that's the most clear use case that most people are doing. So our documentation on PECs is pretty good. If you do have feedback on that or any of these other things on PECs, let me know. And here's just kind of the next stage down of our documentation that I wanted to point out. But the idea is that you could, in Java, have a business operation that might connect out to, I don't know, AWS Lambda service, or maybe a different example would be, AWS queuing system, get a message off the queue, and then convert that into a message object that gets passed along to the rest of your production. So there you go. Very, very quick introduction to what is PECs and why you might want to use it.
Thank you, Stefan.
Yeah,
thank you, Stefan. Thank you, Bob. Actually, we had a few questions in the chat, and colleagues, we encourage you to ask your question in chat or here out loud. Hey, Nigel. Yes, and the one question is, do we in InterSystems plan to have the support to introduce the support of BPMN notation to interoperability productions? I think, or maybe Stefan, Bob.
Yeah, I just replied in the chat on this, but yeah, in general, this is not on the shortlist right now. We're not looking into adding BPM and support or BPEL 2.0, but we're looking with interest into expansion opportunities there. The business process engine is one of the elements which we're going to modernize over the course of the next year. So we are always interested to hear what your challenges are, what you think opportunities are to support you better. So if you have specific thoughts on these things, then always reach out to us on the developer community, or just let us know in this meeting or any other, and we're happy to learn from you.
Yes, thanks, Stefan. And also, I can introduce a teaser that during this virtual summit, please join our summit. There will be announcement of a new platform that will handle such requests to InterSystems. Oh, okay, I have like a great idea to have the support of for X, Y, or Z, and so I think this will help mostly us to see your requests more clearly and see what they are meaningful and most important for our customers, clients, prospects. Perfect. Any more questions? So actually, you are very welcome to ask your questions out loud, please. So yeah, let's use the power of modern conversations, virtual conversations. Any questions so far?
So what are you looking for in this competition? What's going to make an entry stand out above the rest of the herd? Well, small froth cows, not exactly a herd.
Hey, Nigel. Yes, great question. Maybe I'll take it. Actually, Stefan already described what he is looking for, and Bob also said, and also I will add that the intention of contests in the general expectation from the projects on these contexts, developer community contests, is to have first of all open source as examples or solutions that use a particular set of features and technologies from InterSystems products that solve some very comprehensive and interesting and innovative problems. This is like a general answer, but also every time we have a set of technology, what we call like technology bonuses. And let me share my screen. I'll go through the list of that. What we have, what we expect from a particular contest. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes. Can you see it? Yeah. Perfect. Thank you. So let me just. Yes. So we just published a set of technology bonuses for InterSystems Interoperability Contest 2021. And the idea is, so if you like use these or that parts, technology elements of InterSystems products, you get some additional expert points. For example, if you use business process or business rules, you get 3 points. And if you introduce a custom interoperability adapter, you get 2 extra points for each. So maybe you introduce several. And if you use production extension or PEX, so you get even more, like 4 points, because it's really complex thing, and actually it's a new feature. We give you more points because we expect you use the newly introduced feature of InterSystems Iris.
It's not really
Also,
complex. It's just a way to build up your ecosystem, right, and extend what Iris can do. The code by itself is not complex that you need to write, but you need to have some knowledge around that ecosystem, like Java or .NET, right? That is definitely helpful. Just to add to that.
Yes, Stefan, thank you for this correction. So it's my, so I just used the word complex because it's maybe sounds same as specs, like, yeah, so only with this. So it's we introduced it to actually to simplify the usage of external libraries within InterSystems products in interoperability productions. For workflow engine, you will collect 2 more points. It's a special library package in interoperability that you can use to introduce workflow processes that include people or services in your interoperability production. And this is very specific to interoperability contest. And also, we, as always, with almost every contest, we expect you to use our Docker images with your solutions, because Docker simplifies development and contribution, and then like usage of your solutions. Also, we encourage to use our package manager, ZPM, to simplify the deployment. And
can you deploy a container using ZPM?
No, but you can build a container using that will consist of several ZPM packages. So you can install it during like a build phase. But the intention is to have ZPM packages like a small packages, really. So, but maybe in the future there will be a review of that. Online demos are very welcome, so you can deploy by your own, but we also have a serverless technology, like, maybe I'm wrong with the term, but it uses the GitHub action template we have. Uses Google Run technology to deploy your interoperability solution to a Google Cloud, and there will be an immediate demo available to everyone to test it. Next thing is to test your code on quality, and if it will show 0 bugs, you will get an extra point. And it's so easy to have this test. Just introduce yet another GitHub action template into your repository, and that's it. And then you just check how many errors you have there. Also, we encourage you to contribute articles on developer community. This will give you 2 extra points, but also this will attract the attention, the focus to your application of community participants and experts. So this is the way for you to describe what your solution does, and it's a way to get more votes, points, and things like that. Same is for the video on YouTube. Contribute it on YouTube, and then we will transfer to developer community YouTube channel to get the attention of InterSystems developer ecosystem to your newborn solution with InterSystems interoperability technologies. So this is the very short list of technology bonuses we have for interoperability contest. Any questions so far? And Nigel, sorry for this so long story about your long answer for your short question.
Yeah.
But I use the opportunity to introduce the technology bonuses.
Yeah. In Global Masters, I have added a topic, and the topic is about cheat sheets. When I got my little Raspberry Pis, I loaded Ubuntu onto them. I loaded Docker, VS Code, of course, and Docker images of Iris for Health. So I finally got all of that working, and Python. And I'd never worked with Ubuntu before. I had started looking at Python, teach yourself Python apps and books and what have you. But as I was exploring, I kept coming across these, what they call cheat sheets, which are typically a page of a very condensed list of, say, commands and statements and operators. With languages, it tends to be 2 or 3 pages. Something like Docker or Ubuntu, it's like just a single page. And there's also a certain artistic quality about them. And what I'd really like from you is a cheat sheet for ZPM.
Nigel, thanks for this question. And thanks first of all for mentioning Raspberry Pi is available as a reward on Global Masters. So we encourage to redeem this prize, because it with Raspberry Pi you will have we will send it this computer that has InterSystems Iris on board. So you get not only Raspberry Pi but Raspberry Pi that ready to work as your small InterSystems Iris server. Yeah, and answering your question, actually ZPM has the documentation. Just open. Let me show you.
Yeah, I've
share
read
my
the
screen.
documentation.
So if you open an open exchange, right?
Yeah.
And then if you go for ZPM, so you even more ZPM is like a featured application here. Then you just click on documentation link, and you have a documentation on ZPM where I think you have like a click command line cheat sheet on command line commands, yes, and an example of module XML that includes everything, every resource type that ZPM can consist of.
Okay, so my challenge to you is to condense that into a single page cheat sheet.
Maybe in the future. Thank you. So thank you. We will introduce it. Any more questions that are more specific to interoperability? Just because we have 2 product managers that are responsible for this part of technology and InterSystems. So you have a great opportunity to ask a question directly to product managers.
Hi, this is Oliver, and I don't think this was brought up earlier because I was in a meeting, so I couldn't really listen to you guys. But I've looked at the record mapper this past weekend, and I saw in the documentation there is a CSV record wizard, and I thought, nice. I just have a big CSV file with data from my Iris for Money application, and I tried to import or I guess automatically create the record map, and that did not work. And I looked at the code, and I suspect there's a bug in InterSystems code, or at least in Iris 2020.1 that I was using, because I have a quoted data, comma separated records, and I could not process this file to create a record map automatically until I added one line of code. It worked properly for non-quoted data. Has anybody else brought this up? Are you aware of that? Or maybe did I do something wrong? Did I miss something?
So, I mean, there are plenty of configurations how a CSV file can be loaded. And in general, we do support quoted values in the CSV. So if you have a particular data set that doesn't work, then the best way probably is to open a WRC ticket if you have access to that, and let us take a look at that, because in general, we have customers using quoted values. So it would be good to take a look at what particular data you have that's breaking.
Okay, yeah, I'll be happy to open a WRC. Well, I was kind of hesitant because I don't know if it's not work related. I mean, it's me as a personal developer. And usually when I reach out to WRC, it's for work related stuff with my work email. So I'm not sure how to balance that.
Yeah, I think the thought is right, but in the end, if you encountered a bug or a potential bug in the software, then the minimum you can do is put it on the developer community, and what then will happen, because we're interested in it for resolution and figuring out if it is a true bug or not, or a misconfiguration, right? Then the WRC will pick it up anyway. So if you have access to the WRC, just mention that this is not high priority, then that's perfectly fine to open WRC for that.
Okay, sounds good, Stefan. Thank you.
Thank you, Oliver.
Yes, thanks, Oliver. Also, we have a question from a chat. Yuri asks if an adapter to Salesforce is a good idea of a project. So are we badly interested in that?
In general, I mean, I'm seeing these questions over and over again. Is an adapter for ABC a good idea, yes or no? And in general, I like to answer these questions like, hey, if you have a good use case, why you would like to connect to Salesforce, then yeah, then it's a good idea, right? Just writing an adapter for the sake of writing an adapter for these contests is a nice experiment, but ideally they provide a value to your submission, right? That you provide at the end of those 2 weeks. So if you have access to a Salesforce instance or to their web offering, their service offering, and that can provide value to the application that you want to build, then definitely, yeah, go for it. It's going to be a good, entertaining project, and it will be fun, and you're going to learn something too. And I'm sure others will be interested into a Salesforce connectivity option as well and how you approached it. But in general, I like to say, as long as they provide value to your application, then go for it.
Thank you, Stefan. Okay, any more questions? Yeah, so I see only the healthy recommendation from Robert. So I think everyone is ready to start programming contest, to start building their solutions. So that's great. So thanks to all for being today, and thanks to product managers for speaking about interoperability and describing what do we expect. And actually, we wish you good luck to win in this competition, and actually to share with the InterSystems developer ecosystem your great solutions, your great ideas implemented with InterSystems technology, and in particular with InterSystems interoperability technology pieces. So this, okay, and so stay tuned, stay healthy, and see you on developer community. Have a great week. Thank you.
Thank you.